Hi, welcome back to This Day in History. It is August 29th, 2024. As you know, it's not about the year so much as about the magic of the date. And I am having a bad hair day. There's nothing, I mean, it's a little bit of wind blown there, but when I got out of the shower and I brushed my hair, it's like, yep, it's time for a haircut. So, there really isn't much I can do about that. C'est la vie. So, um, we have some interesting stuff today. I mean, we have quite a few birthdays, and actually, I think every one of them has passed on. To be honest, yeah, everyone is basically they've passed on. But we have, and then we have some um, uh, territorial exchanges, um, wars, treaties, um, more battles, um, death of an icon, an invention, a first time test. Yeah, let's get into it, shall we? So, the very first birthday, it goes back to 1632. It's John Locke. John Locke was an English philosopher whose work um, lie in the foundation of the modern philosophical principles of uh, empiricism, empiricism, and liberalism. Imperial empiricism, empiricism. Basically, it is a philosophical belief that concepts originate in experience. So it's like, um, if you're applying any train of thought, it's going to be based on um, the experience you have in that field, which makes sense because how do we gain knowledge? But by through experience, we try, we fail, we try, we triumph, and and that experience gained is what teaches us. It's like, I guess, if I'm applying it correctly, I would say Thomas Edison, um, who invented the light bulb, and it's said that it took him 100 tries, and his response was, "I didn't have 99 failures. I just found 99 ways of how not to make the light bulb." Right? So, to me, if I'm applying this term correctly, um, it was the experience that he gained in all those trials and errors and trials and failures and then ultimately the trial and success. That was the experience that he had gained from those 100 attempts. So I think I'm applying that correctly. Yeah, no. Drop me a comment down below if I'm not applying that correctly. Liberalism, which is the political doctrine um, that takes on the notion that protecting and enhancing individual freedom has to be the central problem of politics. And if you look at liberal policies today in the United States, that's so true. Because liberals in government, they're like, we have to fix these problems. We have to do this. We. You're right. The burden of this falls on us in the government, and we have to provide this for you, the individual. We have to safeguard your freedoms. We have to safeguard your rights. Blah 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 blah. All while they want to regulate everything under the sun, and that is not liberty, and that is not freedom. So, it's a double-edged sword. It could be well-meaning, but in the end, it goes too far in extreme. They say that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So that was John Locke. The next birthday is 1915, Ingrid Bergman. She was a Swedish actress. She was born on this day. Born on this day in 1920, Charlie Parker. He was an American musician. He was basically a jazz saxophonist. He actually did work with Louis Armstrong. So, 1923, that was the year my grandmother was born. And I couldn't believe that he was born. And I was like, man, is he still alive? But unfortunately, he's not. And I really liked him. Richard Attenborough was a British actor, director, and producer. And he's done a lot of wildlife documentaries. And he has such a calm, soothing voice that, when he's doing the narration on these, it really draws you in, and like, not just the scenery of the documentary itself, but the carefully crafted narrative that he spins. I mean, he was brilliant. He was excellent. I'm saddened that he passed away, but may he rest in peace. In 1936, that was the year that my stepdad was born. John McCain, U.S. Senator. He was known as the Maverick of the Republican Party. He's a Vietnam veteran. He was a fighter pilot that was actually captured by the North Vietnamese. He had a presidential run in 2008, and he lost to Barack Obama. But I liked him as a senator. The thing is that, truth be told, though, had he won the presidency, we still would have had that affordable health care, the Affordable Care Act, or whatever it was, Obamacare. We still would have had that. It would have just been McCain's spin on it, but McCain wouldn't have ramrodded it through as aggressively as Obama did. I don't think he had the juice to do it, to be honest. But instead of Obamacare, it would have just been McCain Care had McCain actually won the presidency. But I don't think McCain would have, did the other things that Obama did, like, cash for clunkers. The bailouts were kind of already happening under, at the end of Bush's watch, but I don't know that McCain would have extended them. The Benghazi thing never would have happened. That's for sure. The Fast and Furious stuff never would have happened. These are all, Obama touts himself off as saying he never had any controversies in his administration, but yeah, he did, because I just named two of them. Gun running to the cartels was the Fast and Furious thing, and gun running to Al Qaeda in Libya to take out Gaddafi, that was Benghazi. So, yeah. So that's the last birthday of the list here. Oh no, I take that back. 1958. This is the last birthday. Michael Jackson, King of Pop. He was a singer, songwriter, dancer, American musician, even actor. He did have a cameo in Men in Black. Or was that Men in Black 2? I think, no, it was the first one, I think. He had a cameo in that. The Captain EO thing, he did that. He was an odd duck, but he was a very talented man. And so he's no longer with us now. He died at the age of 50. He died just before what would have been his 51st birthday. I'm not going to talk ill of the man. I just know that he produced a lot of really good music, and he was talented. So let's get back into history. We're going back nearly 2,000 years here. The year is 70 AD. I don't use that common era crap. There's BC before Christ, and there's AD after death. Well, it's a Latin term, but I don't know what it is. But after death, after death isn't really. That doesn't really apply, because year zero is basically the birth of Christ. So, I mean, you can't list that as after death. Otherwise, those 33 years would be in limbo. And at any rate, 70 AD, Jerusalem fell to Roman forces, collapsing the Jewish state. This was... so there was a Jewish revolt in 69 and 70 AD, and I believe that was the Maccabees uprising. I'm not for certain, but I think that's what that was. And what it was is that you had a lot of Jews that just did not like having the fact that that Rome had occupied Palestine, and they had a working relationship. They actually did have a working relationship. I mean, there was a working relationship between the Jewish hierarchy and the Romans. I mean, this is why they kind of colluded together to, crucify Christ. The Christianity is really starting to take off. We got to figure that the crucifixion of Christ was, if we go by biblical accounts, it should have been about 33 AD. He was, it said he was 33 years old when he was crucified, or 33 and a half rather. He was ordained at 30 when he was baptized by his cousin John, and he had a 3.5 year missionary mission, obviously, and that's when he did all his miracles and all that. And then when he was crucified, that kind of, so that's roughly 33-ish. And then this happens, like 37 years later. So a big uprising. That was when the Jews really were truly, they were broken as a nation, and they were scattered to all the corners of the earth, and would not come back together and be their own nation again until 1947, 8, in there somewhere. 1261, Urban IV. He was known as the bishopric of Verdun, the patriarch of Jerusalem. He had succeeded Alexander IV as pope. So Urban IV became Pope Urban IV in 1261. In 1756, you had the beginning of the 7 Years' War, and the 7 Years' War was basically jockeying for power between the Prussians and the Austrians. And it's one of the things that it was over was territory, right? Land grabs. So we have here is 1756 is the beginning of the 7 Years' War, and what's going on there is Austria, the Austrian Habsburgs, they attempt to win back Silesia. Now, if you don't know where Silesia is, it's it would be basically present-day Turkey, Istanbul area. It's along the coastline there. Silesians, back in the age of antiquity, Silesians were known to be pirates on the Mediterranean there, in the Aegean Sea. And they came from if you're looking at the Mediterranean, they're kind of like right up in here, which would be present-day Turkey. Which was taken from them by Frederick II of Prussia during the War of Austrian Succession. So there's a series of wars, cascading series of wars. People are jockeying for power. They're jockeying for land grabs and such. And so there's like this big, teeter-tottering effect going on. In 1842, China signs the Treaty of Nanking, or Nanjing, I should say. Basically, what it did is it provided for the cession, that would be Cession, of Hong Kong. Basically, what they did is they ceded Hong Kong to British rule. The Chinese gave up Hong Kong and said, even though this is a city in our country, this is going to be a British colony. This is going to be British owned. This is going to be, all, so, and, we didn't see Hong Kong being given back over to the Chinese until, 1999, I believe it was. But part of that treaty, what it came with is, so it ceded Hong Kong to the British, to Great Britain. It opened up 5 treaty ports. Rights of British subjects accused of criminal acts in China were to be tried in British courts. So, they couldn't be tried in a Chinese court. They were tried in a British court. It also put limitations on duties for imports and exports, taxes, right? So, it limited what the British could tax for imports and exports. It limited what the Chinese could tax for imports and exports. So it was actually, fairly good deal, I suppose. But 20 years later, we're in the Civil War. Union Major General John Pope opened the Second Battle of Bull Run. It's also known as the Second Battle of Manassas, with heavy but futile attacks on the Confederate General Stonewall Jackson. Basically, he launched an attack on the Confederates, and Stonewall Jackson, being who he was, a fine military commander, he won that battle. 1877, we see the death of Brigham Young. Brigham Young, obviously, is an American religious leader. If you're familiar with the Mormon Church, he was the second president of the Mormon Church. It is on this day in 1877 that he passed away in Salt Lake City. 1893, American businessman and inventor Whitcomb L. Judson. He received a U.S. patent for the clasp locker, which the clasp locker eventually became known as something that you and I use every day, unless you don't. The zipper. You zip up your trousers, you zip up your purse, you zip up whatever you might use a zipper for. It is on this day in 1893 that the original patent was issued for that particular item. On this day in 1949, the Soviet Union tests its very first atom bomb. We in the West, we refer to it as Joe 1. It was a direct copy of Fat Man, which was the atom bomb that was used to bomb Nagasaki, that precipitated the end of World War II. So somehow the Soviets got they got blueprints, they got plans on Fat Man. Little Boy was the name of the bomb that took out Hiroshima. Fat Man was the bomb that took out Nagasaki. And somehow the Russians had got, they were able to fabricate their very first atom bomb based off of the schematics and blueprints and technology associated with Fat Man. In 1997, Netflix, founded by entrepreneurs Reed Hastings and Mark Randolph, they founded Netflix on this day in 1997. It was originally a video rental company, but later it expanded into what it is now, which is a video streaming service, and also a production company, because they actually produce their own movies as well. Pretty good stuff. I mean, a lot of these independent studios are really starting to produce a lot of good stuff. I mean, Amazon has their own production studio now for the Prime folks. Netflix has its own. Paramount, Paramount was always a movie studio, but they produce content for their streaming service, and it's kind of the wave of the future, really, I guess. So We spoke about Senator McCain, um, because today marks his birthday. Um, right? I said that right? Yeah. So it was on his birthday in 2008 that he announced that Alaska Governor Sarah Palin would be his running mate when he was running against Barack Obama. Um, it was the first time that a woman had ever been placed on a Republican presidential ticket, and of course, her big thing is like she was called into question that because she hadn't finished her first term as governor, and they thought that she shouldn't be qualified to be a vice president. Well, you know what? Barack Obama never finished his first term as senator either when he ran for president, so it's like um, it was a moot point. But 2016, American comic actor Gene Wilder dies at the age of 83. And if you don't know who Gene Wilder is, well, if you've ever seen the original Willy Wonka, you've seen Gene Wilder. Gene Wilder did a lot of comic movies. I don't want to say that they were slapstick, but I mean um, he was a comic actor. He was a funny guy. Young Frankenstein. He did that movie. Um, he did. Was that him in Condor Man? I can't remember. Um, he was Hear No Evil, See No Evil. Uh, he was in that movie with Richard Pryor, but he was a funny guy, and so it is on this day in 2016 that he passed away. Special event, the featured event, is on this day in 2005. Um, Hurricane Katrina hits New Orleans. It hits the Gulf Coast area, but the worst uh, of the damage, I believe, was New Orleans, mostly because when the hurricane hit, all their levees failed, and so mass flooding. I mean, they were flooded. They flooded the next day, and they were flooded for weeks. Um, Bush Jr. got a black eye for that one in the public eye because of how FEMA had handled it. The thing is that it's not really the federal government's fault when the state doesn't take care of its own infrastructure, and that's really what it was. Is that it later came out that Louisiana had known that their levees were going to fail should a major hurricane like Katrina hit, and they basically just kept kicking the ball down the road there. I don't know if they were just like, oh, we'll deal with this later, or if it was just a matter of, well, we'll just kick the ball down and then we'll just have the federal government come in and clean it up and do our infrastructure for us, which is exactly what they did. They assumed that FEMA was going to come in and take care of everything, and then they griped in the manner in which FEMA had handled the that whole situation. So there was misplaced blame there on President Bush and the federal government, when really it was the state government's failure of maintaining their own infrastructure for the previous 20 years. So, I mean, there you go. That is this day in history. That concludes this day in history for August 30th. We'll be back again tomorrow for August 30th. Today is August 29th. We'll be back again tomorrow for August 30th. And it's hot. I'm sweating. Sorry. But I got to get to work. So be well, be blessed, take care. It's a wonderful, beautiful, sunny day where I'm at, and hopefully it is a wonderful, beautiful, sunny day where you're at. So take care and all, and we'll be back again tomorrow for August 30th. All right? See ya. Bye.